So total these three modules in SAP GTS: compliance management, customs management, and risk management. The screenshot over here, it shows the landscape of SAP GTS. So primarily you have the SAP NetWeaver platform, which is common across all the different offerings by SAP. So you have the ERP or your ECC system, you have your SAP CRM system, you have your SAP SRM system, right? And then you have a separate box for SAP GTS. So this box sits outside your normal SAP ERP or the ECC system. So it's a separate system, just like your CRM or an SRM system or your APO system. So it's a separate box compared to the ECC system. So you have to maintain some connection settings so that your ECC systems communicate with your SAP GTS systems. Okay. You also can connect, if you have any legacy system, to your SAP GTS system. You can also connect if you have any web orders or any portal tool you have where you are entering your customer and vendor details and you want to screen those details. You can also connect such web orders forms directly with your SAP GTS system. Okay, so for that matter, see, all these communications you can establish, okay, through BAPIs, and these are through standard plugins. I hope everybody is from SAP background. I'm using some SAP specific terminology. So that's how the system connections are made, and these two systems communicate with each other, right? So it's a separate system. You have these three offerings, and within them you have something called a sanctioned party list screening, embargo checks, and import export control. We'll see in our next slides what does these terms mean. So basic purpose of compliance management is proactive regulatory compliance, which is required by the company, and then you can also have your faster customs clearance, because all this process of communicating with customs will be managed via EDI. So it will be a precise information, faster information flow between customs and your company, and that eventually leads to faster customs clearance. In risk management module, you have something called as preference determination. You can use SAP GTS to very much automate this entire process. We will go over them in our next slides. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction what all we are going to cover in SAP GTS. So we'll start with the very first module, that is compliance management. So like I said, there are three key capabilities. First one being the sanctioned party list screening. Then you have your import export control and the embargo check. Now what does sanctioned party list screening means? Sanctioned party is nothing but a party with which you are denied from doing business with. There are companies or certain individuals who have been flagged for flagged or banned from doing business with. So all such partners you shouldn't be having as your sold to partner or your ship to or your vendor, right? So that is the basic purpose of sanctioned party. So it screens all of your business partners. Now who can be your business partner? A business partner can be your vendor. It can be your customer. So within vendor, all the different partner functions. Within customer, all different partner functions. It can be your contact person. It can be employee, HR employee. It can be your bank. So all these different business partners you're dealing, they all can be your business partners basically. Your customers, vendors, banks, contact persons, employees. Or if you want to do any ad hoc screening, let's say my name and address you want to screen, even you can do such screening, ad hoc screening of name and addresses. So sanctioned party list screening is nothing but screening of all your vendors and customers on your documents, your sales order, your purchase orders, your delivery documents, right? So you have your ship to, sold to on these orders. So what does this system do is basically it screens the name and the address of these business partners, and it checks this, or it tries to compare it with the database. And if it finds a match, depending upon the settings you have configured, if it finds a percentage match with that particular name and address, it will block that document. And then you have to further go and do analysis on that business partner name and address and see if it is really blocked or it's just a false positive hit. So that is how the sanction party list screening works. Now I told a database. Now what is this database? This database is nothing but a list of all the name and addresses which we procure from a third party data provider, which we buy it from an external vendor, and then we upload that data in the SAP GTS database. Okay, so these lists are usually published on daily basis. There are changes, there are old records getting deleted, new records being added, existing records validity period is changing. So all such changes, right, the delta uploads are done on daily basis. So your database is always current as per the government regulations, whatever list governments have published. So your database is always current. And then you are screening your business partners, you are screening your documents. So your business partners, right, your documents will have a business partner. You can create new business partners, right, as a master data. So all this data is transferred to your SAP GTS, and what the system does is it basically screens the name and addresses of this business partner against this database. So that is the basic purpose of SPL. So it will screen your business partners, it will screen your documents at every step in the order to cash and procure to pay, your OTC and your PTP cycle. So entire all the documents are screened. From OTC, let's say right from your inquiry, quotation, sales orders, if you are using any contracts, different order types, your outbound deliveries, everything will be screened. You just have to set up the system in that way, and there are a lot of configuration behind this. We'll see it when we start with the actual course, but this is how it works. Moreover, whatever documentation, whatever log, right, it is always saved in the system. So at this point of time, on so and so date and time, you screened this document and this was the log. So all these logs, they are saved in the system, right? So tomorrow a audit comes, you can prove to the audit why you had taken so and so of releasing a document or blocking a document. So you can enter your own comments, you can enter your reason codes there, right? And thus you can maintain a comprehensive documentation within the system. There is integration with logistics from OTC and PTP side, right? HR, where you can screen your employee details, and finance, where you can screen your bank details. Okay, so there is integration across all the different modules of SAP ECC. So you can choose what all functionality you want to screen. If you want to screen employee data, if you want to screen financial, you have that features there. Okay. So that's all in sanction party list screening. Why employees and bank details have to be screened? Okay, good question. So see, you are hiring a new employee. You don't know his past history, right? All the companies, even in India, they are doing background checks. The reason being to check your experience. The reason being they are checking if you are not belonging to any other banned groups, right? So you need to screen even your employees and even your banks. You might be doing business with a small bank, and maybe that bank has in the past has been dealing with some funding to terrorist organizations, so it must be on the banned list of, let's say, UN or let's say US sanctions. So you never know. So you have the option of screening them. Majorly you screen your vendors and customers, but you also have the option of screening your employees and your finance, that is your banks. Okay. Moving on to the next capability which compliance management offers, this is your license control, import export license control. Now most of the products in many companies you can import or export with a general license, or you don't require a license, but there are some products, right, which the government wants to monitor, and to export such products you basically require a license, or to import such a product you basically require a license. So what happens is, when you are creating a sales order for so and so product, right, the system will automatically go and check in GTS, does that product requires a license, and if it requires a license, then that particular sales order or that particular purchase order will go on a block, automatic block, if it doesn't find a valid license. If it finds a valid license, it will release that order, but if it doesn't find a valid license, it will block that order. Okay, so you have to go and communicate with the customs and obtain the necessary license from the customs. Okay, and once you have that license, you can assign that license to that specific purchase order or sales order, and that's how that order will be released. Where does license available? Is it in ECC? No, the license is in GTS. License is GTS specific master data. So we will be creating and maintaining those licenses in GTS. What the system will do, it will in real time, for all orders we should get, no, like I said, there are certain products which require a license. So you can flag such products which require a license, and then when you are creating an order for those products, right, the system will check, okay, this product requires a license, and then it will block that particular sales or purchase order. And we will assign license. Yes, so we will assign that license control to a material or a product. So we called it material in SAP ECC, but in GTS we call it as product. Sorry, I didn't get the last question. GTS connected to custom systems, and we get directly from customs for the licenses. You have the capability, you can automatically get this licenses from the customs electronically, or you can manually place the request. You have both the options there. To do obtain the license automatically, right, there are certain settings you need to make, and then it will work. So both the ways it's possible. But the bottom line is, you need to get the license from the customs so as to further proceed with this order. So like in this snapshot, we are trying to create a sales order, right? We are creating a standard order. We have entered a ship to sold to. And when we are saving the order, we get a pop-up like this. It's I think too small to read, but just to give you an idea. So the check is happening in real time. So when you are trying to save this order, the system will communicate with the GTS via RFC call. It will perform checks, and then the result will come whether this order is blocked or released. So like in this pop-up, you can see legal control embargo released, checked, legal control sanction party list blocked, checked, and legal control license determination released, checked. So these three functionalities, it is checking, and it is saying that it has blocked this particular order for sanction party list screening. So when you are saving the sales order, you will get a pop-up like this. Okay, so your sanction party list and your embargo, they are partner specific, and your export import license, that is your product specific. So what particular product requires a license, or it can also be made country specific. If you are shipping to a particular country, it will require a license. So there are different permutations and combinations possible there. Okay, so you obtain the license, and once you obtain that license, you can assign that license to the specific sales order or purchase order, and that's how that order will be released. You can track quantity and value depreciation. Now the customs, they can assign you a document specific license which is only specific to that particular sales order or a purchase order. Or the customs, they can give you a license for a blanket order. To say, let's say product XYZ, you can ship for this year up to 1,000 quantities. Okay, so I can ship 1,000 quantities of product XYZ in this calendar year. So custom will give me a license like this. So whenever I'm creating a sales order, let's say I create a sales order for 10 pieces now. Okay, it will check that, okay, I have a valid license for this particular validity period of 1 year, and I have total quantity on this license as 1,000 pieces. So it will deduct this 1,000 pieces from, it will deduct this 10 pieces from this 1,000, and so the remaining quantity left on that license will be 990 pieces, and this 10 will be deducted. So you can have a quantity depreciation. Similarly, you can have a value depreciation. Customs can tell you product ABC you can ship till a value of 10,000 USD. Okay. So there are different types of licenses customs can give you. You need to identify what all licenses are available for the different products in your country. So those are parts of requirement gathering. So you gather those requirements and accordingly create the different license types, and then you maintain all these parameters for those license types. So it's little bit complex configuration there, but yeah, there are different permutation and combinations. So it's a flexible tool. It will allow you to make many different combination settings. So you can track quantity and value depreciation on those licenses. Okay. So this is what the license control has to offer in SAP GTS. The third and the last key capability in compliance management is nothing but embargo. Now embargo, as the name suggests, is again kind of a sanctions. You must have heard in newspaper or news channels that Iran is under sanctions from US. Iran is under sanctions from EU, right? So all these different kinds of sanctions are there, but India is not under sanctions with Iran. Technically means not under sanction from India. So you can maintain such combinations under embargo. Sanction is nothing but you are not allowed to do any trading with that particular country. No import, no export to that country. Right? So you maintain all such countries in a master list. And when you are creating a sales or purchase order, check if that business partner belongs to the country in that. So let's say I have added Iran to that master list. It will check, okay, Iran has been added to that master list and it is under sanctions, it is under embargo. So I'm not supposed to deal with this particular country. So automatically that sales order will go for a block, since that sold to party or shipped to party belongs to Iran. So that transaction will go for a block. Similarly, if you are buying something from Iran, it will check the country of vendor is Iran, which is in list which I have maintained manually, and it will say, okay, since it's in the list, it's under embargo, it is under sanctions, and I am not supposed to create this purchase order. So the purchase order you have created, it will automatically go for a block. Okay, so that's how the embargo check functionality works in SAP GTS. So these are some of the benefits of using compliance management module. Avoid costly fines and penalties through facilitating tighter national security. Okay, now many companies, at least in US, they have signed various acts there. There is a Patriot Act and there are other acts which they have signed. So according to them, according to those, you have to screen all your partners. You have to ensure that you are not dealing with any such person or organizations. Okay, and if you are dealing, they find that, then they either fine you, okay, or they either tell you not to do any further import or export business. Okay, so you can avoid those costly fines, shorter delivery time through automated trade compliance process. Now, as in this case, if the license, the system, you have assigned it to a product, right? This particular product requires a license. So meantime you are manufacturing that product, right? You can obtain that license from customs. So both of these things are happening in parallel, right? And then once you have got the license, by that time you might have completed working on that product and you are ready for delivery. So you reduce your delivery times, right, through this automated and faster controls. You can also improve worker productivity. So all these steps you don't need to do manually. You don't need to screen your business partner, or you don't need to maintain anything separately in Excel where you go and check manually, or so all these things are automated, right? You secure your corporate brand equity by avoiding negative press coverage. Let's say if you're dealing with any such, the news will come in paper and you will get a negative press coverage, so you can avoid that. You be prepared for legal audits. You have comprehensive documentation across all these three capabilities. Even in license, your logs, they are saved. Even in embargo, your logs are saved, and you can enter your comments and reason for release, which you can show to the audit team. Okay, so these are some benefits of compliance management important module used in SAP GTS. These are some things which we already discussed. What is sanction party list screening? Avoid doing business with denied parties. You have interface to external data providers from where you can procure the list and maintain it in SAP. So you populate your database with the name and addresses of denied party list. Okay, so you can automate this interface. One of the vendor popular is MK Data. Okay, from MK Data you buy the list in XML format, which is then dropped on a FTP site, and you have programs which will auto pull and read this file and upload that data in SAP GTS. So that's how your database is always current. You have comprehensive screening against multiple lists, all business partners. So all your business partners, different partner functions, right? They are all screened. You have options of phonetic as well as linguistic search. So words which sound similar and words which when we are typed, right, they look similar. So you have both these options there. In every process step, order to cash, purchase to pay, we already discussed this, right from your inquiry all the way till your billing, right? And in purchase to pay, right from your RFQ thing all the way to your invoicing. This particular process checks all your business partners. You can also check one-time customers as well as address changes in the documents. Let's say I've created an order with a particular ship to or sold to customer, and then I manually change that order in the sales order or the purchase order itself, manually change the address. Okay, so when you're saving this order, it will check against this change address in real time and determine if it will go for a block or not. Okay, the sensitivity of checks is adjustable to specific business needs. So like I said, you have these controls in your configuration. How much percentage of name match should be there so that this document or this business partner will be blocked? Whether 70% name match should be there, 60%, 68%. So you have all these control parameters with you. Name match, street match, country match, okay, postal code match, city match. So all percentages, different percentages you can set in the system, okay, and accordingly your documents or your business partners will be blocked. You have the options of what all fields from the address should be considered while doing this match. Okay, so all such things are available at your disposal. You have fine control over what you need to check. Okay, So when based upon the number of hits, you might have to change these parameters. Similarly, on import-export license control, ensure vigilant compliance with trade regulations. Change and manage, check and manage import and export licenses in SAP GTS. Check for embargoes. Automatic track both quantity and value depreciation with your import or export license. And simulation capabilities. Now the simulation capabilities, right, they are also available across all these three different functionalities. I don't need to create an actual sales order to check if that particular sales order will go for a block, or I don't need to actually create a purchase order. I have a simulation capability. So what I will do, I will enter that product, I will enter that business partners which are there on that product, right, on that order, and I will execute and I will check if that particular order can go for a block. So I have those simulation capabilities in SAP GTS. So you don't need an actual order to check whether it will work or not. So any questions on compliance management module before we start with the uh, second capability, that is the customs management? Okay, we have a question. How check will happen for one-time customers? Yes, so when you are creating a one-time customer, right, you will enter an address directly in the sales order or the purchase order. So when you are entering that address, similarly like there is address changes in document, it will go and in real time check whether the customer belongs to party. So let's say I'm just going into the system and showing you something. This is your sanction party list screening, different modules, logistics, HR, finance. Okay, and you have the master data. Check general address. Okay, so you can key in any legal regulation. These are some concepts in SAP GTS. In the course we can take a look on this, but let's say you can key in any particular name here. Let's say your name, Sunil, country India, place, city I don't know, let's say Bangalore. Okay, you can have your street and address here. You can execute this. So this is a general address check I am doing. Similarly, once you are creating your one-time, so it says status released, so it doesn't find any hit. If it finds any hit, it will list here and it will say how much percentage hit was there and a percentage match is there. Okay, it will show you. So one-time customers will have an address, and just like I checked your address in runtime, right? Similarly, those addresses and the names of those one-time customers will be checked. So that's how the check will happen. Coming back to our PPT. Okay, any questions before we start with our second sub-module of SAP GTS, that is customs management? Compliance management is the most important module in SAP GTS. It's been used by most of the companies who have implemented GTS. If we don't have any questions, let's move on. We start with our second module, which is customs management on blocked address. Sorry, Santosh, can you show one illustration on block addresses? Okay, I don't know if this particular database is. Let's say, okay, this is the favorite of everybody. Let's keep this. Let's see. I'll have to check what legal regulation we have populated. Maybe because of that it's not seeing it. Country PK. Okay. Okay. So we don't have SPL US as our legal regulation. We have D, and then we have it. Okay. So check depends on legal regulation. Yeah. See. Legal regulation is nothing but where you have kept all your legal rules combined. So we do have legal regulation for SPL. Different people have created different legal regulation in the system. But I was just checking whether we have data populated against US. So US doesn't have any data. The database which I told you, it doesn't have any data populated against that, and that's why it didn't find any hit. But on others, right? On SPLD, we have data uploaded, and that's why it's working in SPLD. So let's continue our discussion with the customs management module and see what does customs management offer. So the first key capability is product classification. On what basis legal regulation will create? Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like, let's say now your country is Germany and Germany has a set of rules. So you can create one legal regulation for Germany which will follow all the German laws. Similarly, you can create a different legal regulation for US. So depending upon country and the requirements you have, you will create the legal regulation. Usually, if the company is headquartered in one place, right, it expects all the other countries also to follow the same rules in most of the cases. So in that case, you will just create one legal regulation which will be common across and all the countries have to follow that. So if US has banned something, even other countries will have to follow that ban. US based company, of course. Okay. So the first key capability is product classification. GTS is being used only in US and no, it's being used in different countries. It's not only US and EU. It is of course US and EU common ones because most of the companies are there. But I worked on projects which are outside EU. In Singapore, you have in Australia, you have in China, right? And eventually it will come in India also, just like you. In India, most of this process is still done manually or through some other third-party tools. So eventually it will come in other countries. But of course, US and EU, it's most popular there compared to other countries. Classification. Product classification is nothing but classifying your product. Now classifying your product with what? With a particular code. Now what is this code? We call it as HS code or HTS code, Harmonized Tariff System. Now this harmonized tariff system is basically, it's a system or set of codes which are followed by all the different countries in the world. Okay, so it's a 6-digit code, and then you have features to add additional digits according to your country specific needs. But throughout the world, those 6 digits for that particular product will be same. Let's say, let's take an example of plastic, or let's take some other example, low density polyethylene. Okay, so if you are manufacturing this product, if you are trying to import or export this product, you know that it is a low density polyethylene, but how will the customs know what is this product? Because all their import duties, all their export rates, okay, all their licenses, they are based upon this particular code, right? So they need to know what product are you trying to ship. So you need to assign the correct code to your product. So I will assign a particular code, let's say 290010, which stands for low density polyethylene. I will assign to my product, which I have named in my system, let's say XYZ, and the description is low density polyethylene. So I will assign the correct HTS code to my product in SAP GTS. So you have the functionality of mask classification and mask reclassification. Uh, so these are the different chapter IDs in your system. Each chapter ID will have different codes. These screenshots are pretty small, so you can't see, but there are chapter, there is heading, there is subheading, then there is the actual code. So you have to expand the nodes like this and eventually assign this code to the product. Okay. HTS codes for respective products will be given by customs. No, HTS codes will not be given by customs. You have to obtain these codes from a third-party data provider, just like your denied party list in SPL. You obtain these codes, you buy this code from the third-party data provider, and then it is your responsibility to classify the product correctly with the most appropriate code. It is your responsibility. Customs will not tell that this particular product needs this particular code. They will inspect that particular product eventually, but it is your responsibility to assign the most appropriate code to your product. It is your responsibility. So product classification, assign correct HTS code to the product master, automated mass reclassification and mass classification functionality. So you have search feature. Let's say your product, you are trying to ship low density polyethylene, right? You can do a control F, you can do a search there, you can see what all particular HTS code are related to low density polyethylene. I can search that. Okay, once I am sure that this particular code needs to be assigned to my product, I will assign that. Okay. You also have the capability to perform duty calculation. Whenever you are importing something, right, you need to pay certain amount to the customs. This particular amount can be based as a flat rate, as a percentage based, right, of the total amount of or total value of product you are trying to import. Okay, so you have to pay this import duty. You have to perform, so the system can perform the duty calculation for you. So just like you have uploaded the STS code from the data provider, you can also buy the duty calculation, the most up-to-date duty calculation rate from the data provider, and you upload that in the system. So let's say low density polyethylene, this is the STS code, and you have to pay 2% duty on this particular code. Okay, so when you have created the customs declaration, the system will automatically check saying, okay, this particular product requires so much duty to be paid, and it will calculate the duty for you, and then you can. Export duty is not handled in GTS. It can be handled in GTS. Both duty can be handled. Okay. Okay. So export taxes and stuff, then we will have to go into a very depth in this particular customs declaration part. But yes, so whatever duties, like for example, in this screenshot, if you say simulation of duty calculations, so the value of product and the different duty rates you have maintained, suspension of duty, preferential customs duty, third country duty. So all these different rates are available for each of the products, and that's how your total duty will be calculated then. So this is country of departure, origin Belgium, Okay, HS code is so and so. So based upon, as part of pricing, it is done. So yeah, I can understand your question. In ECC you can do that. You have the option. If you want to handle it here, you can do it. But like you said, most of the thing is done in ECC from export side. From import side, primarily you are doing it in the GTS system. Okay. So the third key capability which we have in customs management is, of course, your customs communication service. As the name suggests, customs management, the basic purpose is communicating with customs. So facilitate electronic communication with customs authority and trade systems. The trade systems different countries have, like NCTS, AES, ICS, etc. So all these different countries, they have their own trade systems or IT systems. Like AES is pretty popular and has become mandatory in the US, right? So all your customs declaration, initially they were filed via paper. Now you have to declare everything electronically. You have to send the customs declaration electronically. So the principle is same. You create the customs sales order in the system, okay, and when you are doing the invoicing, at that time something called as customs declaration will be created in the GTS system. This customs declaration will have all the mandatory information required by the customs, okay, and then what you can do is you can send this customs declaration to the customs authority. So this customs declaration will be converted to an IDOC, which will be eventually converted to an EDI format via the C-Burger adapter, and this C-Burger adapter will then send this EDI to the customs. Similarly, on the inbound side, it will happen. So all this communication is done electronically. Support of custom procedures such as free circulation, bonded warehouse, transit procedure. Now let's say there is a country, like for example you are shipping something to Germany, but how does it enter? It first enters, let's say, to Netherlands, and from Netherlands it takes the transit route, that is go via road, and comes across the border between Netherlands and Germany. So a thing ships from US to Netherlands via sea, that is the sea vessel, and from Netherlands till the border of Germany via a truck, and from Germany border it will again go via truck to the final destination. So you have capability to map the transit procedures. You have bonded warehouse. Bonded warehouse is nothing but a place where you can keep the goods without paying the duty for some time. So you can delay the payment of duty. Most of the time you don't know what will be the final destination of this product, whether you are going to re-export this product or use it in your company for further downstream processes. So you don't know the final destination of that product, and that's why you avoid paying the duty till you know that. So there are places like customs bonded warehouse where you can keep these goods under customs observation without paying the duty. And once you know the final destination of that product, you can pay the customs duty and take away this product from customs warehouse. Okay, so customs communication service supports all these procedures, different customs procedures. It also offers trade document service, that is print the required forms like country of origin, your certificates of origin, your entry summary, packing list. There are different documents which needs to accompany with the shipment. Let's say I'm shipping a product from US to Germany. Okay, when the product comes in Germany, I need to submit some documents there. This electronic filing was okay, that is between your country and the your company and the customs. But when your goods finally land on the other side, you need to show some documents like country of origin, certificate of origins. So all such documents can also be printed in SAP GTS, and these documents will accompany with your shipment, and then you can submit these documents to the customs on other side. So most of the standard forms, they are already existing in SAP GTS in the required format. But let's say there are some countries for which the form doesn't exist, so you can create your own forms. You have a flexible uh, tool in SAP GTS, and you can create your own forms in SAP GTS. So this is what the customs management module has to offer. You basically classify your products, you pay your import duties, you primarily communicate with the customs, and on the other side of the border, whatever printouts of different forms is required, you can print them. And these are certain benefits of the using customs management module. Reduce buffer stock by bringing better predictability to importing product process. You make more informed sourcing decisions. You can see, like, if you source material from different countries, how much duty you have to pay. Okay, so you can make more informed sourcing decision based upon that. You can lower the import duties by appropriate product classification. You can comply with the authorities' demand through electronic communications. Fulfill complex documentation. Now, import-export involves a lot of documentation. It is not just one particular document you print and you give it. There are different documents which the customs expects from you. You need to prove it. Whether you to get any rebate, any exemptions, right? You need to prove to the customs that okay, this particular product was manufactured in so and so country and stuff. So there are a lot of complex documentation involved, so you can print those documents or you can fulfill those complex documentation requirements via SAP GTS, and overall you can drive the process efficiency. So these are some of the key capabilities which the customs management has to offer. So this is a new computerized transit system primarily used in European Union when you are transiting between two neighboring countries, right? So you have different, just a basic question, all these customs documents are required for our company, right? When you say for our company, we are not billing these developments to the customer. No, eventually this is the overhead when you are involved in a global trade scenario, right? You basically do global trade because you want to expand your markets. Secondly, if you are on the procuring side, you want to procure at the most effective price, right? So these overheads, they will be, you won't be charging directly to the customer. These are some of the things which you need to give it to the customs so that they authorize that this shipment can go outside the country, or you can import this shipment inside the country. So you won't directly assign this cost to the customer. So you have this new computerized transit system used in EU. You have Atlas in Germany. You have this Sagita in Netherlands. So all these different countries have their own IT systems enabled, and you can facilitate your paperless customs clearance by using this different IT systems. So any questions on customs management? Are this inbuilt in GTS? So most of these are there already in SAP GTS, the standard ones, different customs like the AES thing, Atlas thing, the Sagita thing, they are already there in SAP GTS. You need to activate them, you need to check what all are the other requirements, and based upon that. So to answer your question, they are there in the system. So let's start with the last module of SAP which the SAP GTS offers, that is risk management. So the first capability here is preference determination. Now preference is nothing but there are is GTS screening required for returns. You mean customer returns? Yes, it will be required. Let's say you are bringing back the product in the country, right? Then the customs will ask why is this product been returned. So if it involves two countries, then it will be part of your GTS since it's a global trade. So these are some specific scenarios which will be part of your SAP GTS screening. So okay, trade preference processing. Now you have different zones set up, right? You in Europe you have the European Union, which is a list of all those countries within Europe. Then in North America you have NAFTA, which is US, Canada and Mexico. Similarly in Southeast Asia you have, so different countries, they have formed free trade zones, or you can say trade zones. Not all of them are free trade zones, but trade zones between them. And if you are trading between these countries, you get certain benefits. That is the whole and sole purpose of these trade zones, right? So you get certain benefits in terms of lower or no duty. So it's zero duty you have to pay, or you have to pay lower duty compared to if you are importing that product from some other country, right? So all such benefits you basically have to prove to the customs, okay, I am importing this product from so and so country, so I need to get this benefit. Okay, let's say I'm manufacturing a mobile phone. Let's take an example of NAFTA in US. You are manufacturing a mobile phone in US. Okay, most of the components are coming from Mexico, and Mexico is a part of NAFTA, which is a trade zone, NAFTA trade zone. Okay, so most of your components are coming from Mexico. Some of your components are coming from Japan, and some of them are coming from China. Okay, so when you are actually manufacturing this product and you are shipping this product to, let's say, a third country in Europe now, okay, the final product is shipped from US to Europe. So you can prove to the customs that my particular product has so many components from Mexico, which is part of your free trade zone, and that's why I should get benefits in terms of import duties on this product or a preference treatment, right? So you can manage this preference in your system, SAP GTS system. For that you have to manage the vendor declarations. So the vendors in those countries, they will have to declare, okay, this particular component was manufactured in our country with all the parts from our country, and all those vendor declarations needs to be sent to the our company, and based upon that it will determine your preferential origin. So preferential origin is there is certain percentage requirement, right? So whether your product satisfies that percentage requirement. If yes, then you are eligible for preference. If no, then you are not eligible. So if you are eligible for preference, then you can print all these preference related documents which you can submit to the customs authority. And similarly, the customer to which you are shipping, okay, he might be using that product in certain of his final products, and then he must be expecting the vendor declaration from you. So similarly you can provide him the vendor declaration, like you are expecting vendor declaration from your vendors, right? Similarly the customer, he will also expect a vendor declaration. So you have that capability of providing the vendor declaration also. So you manage the vendor declarations on both sides. You determine if that product is eligible for preferential origin, and if it is there, then you can print the preferential documents. You can send this preferential documents to the customs, and that's how you can obtain the benefit of this preference. Okay. The second capability what SAP GTS offers is finance service or letter of credit, also known as LC. So you can manage your LC for both inbound and outbound process, and in LC there is a tight integration between your logistics and finance module. So let's say two different parties, they are entering into the trade for the first time. Let's say one party is in US, another party is in China. Both of them are dealing for the first time. Okay. So what happens? Either party, they are not confident will if the other parties will satisfy whatever are the requirements. The vendor, he needs assurance that he will be paid for his service. Similarly, the customers, he expects that whatever he is asking will be delivered, okay, within that proper time frame according to so and so set of conditions. So in this, the letter of credit comes into picture. So what does letter of credit does here? Each of this partner will communicate with the banks in their own country, or let's say the customer will first communicate with the bank in his own country. He will say, I need to open a letter of credit with so and so requirements and so vendor, right? Then that bank will contact a bank in the vendor country, and that vendor country bank will then inform the vendor that a letter of credit has been opened. Okay. So once this letter of credit has been opened, your documents will be released, right? So this is again partner specific. Your LC is partner specific. So you need to turn on this LC functionality at the partner level. So once you have maintained this letter of credit and the actual shipment of the goods happens to the customers, okay, the vendor sends all the documents to the bank in his country and he says, I have shipped so and so product and these are the documentation, please release my payment. And that way the bank in the vendor country releases the payment. So vendor receives his payment, the goods are on their way, and the documents are then shipped to the customer's bank, and the customer's bank eventually give the documents to the customer. So that closes the letter of credit cycle. Okay, so it's a good way in which you mitigate the financial risk between the customer and the vendor. Restitution is something which is used in Europe. It is applicable to the CAP products, which are the common agricultural policy products. So it's similar to your license control only, but very specific to products, farm products, agricultural products. So one sec. What is the question? If both parties satisfied on transaction, LOC cancels automatically. So letter of credit, it is just like a license basically. It cancels automatically means that transaction is complete, and then that it's just like a specific document specific license, right? Once that document has been released, the letter of credit is automatically closed. So restitution, frankly speaking, I have not worked on restitution. It's purely on agricultural policy products. Most of the companies I have dealt with is in chemicals and semiconductors industry. So we won't be covering restitution handling, but to give you a brief idea on how the process will work is it is pretty similar to your license process, where you will apply for a specific license from the authorities. You will deposit some security amount with the authorities. Okay, you will inform them what all is the recipe of your product. Okay, and based upon that, when you are doing the actual shipment, you can claim this restitution amount from the authorities. So primarily in risk management, preference is most popular. Preference is actually a very complex process, and that's why most of the company, they don't take true benefits of the preference process because it's very complex to handle, right? But with the SAP tool, GTS tool, uh, most of the processes have become automated. So just like your denied party list, your HS code, your duty rates, similarly you can buy the preference rules from third party data provider. Okay, you can buy these preference rules, and once you buy this preference rule, you can upload them in the system. Okay, so how whatever the complex requirements are, they are all automatically taken care of. So I just gave you a simple example. Let's say so and so percentage of product. Uh, uh, if so much percentage of products are from a particular country, then you can claim preference. But actually in preference, it's fairly complex. You have different and or combinations there. Okay, so you need to satisfy all of them to claim for a preference treatment. So, and LC is also pretty popular in international trade. So both of these processes are pretty common in risk management wherever they have been implemented. So again, drive overall process efficiencies, improve competitiveness through use of preference, be prepared for legal audit, everything is documented, gain time savings on return on investment, strategic sourcing based upon preference again, and mitigate financial risk through letter of credit. Okay, so that's what I had to share with you today regarding the different features offered by SAP GTS. Do let me know if there are any questions. What are the models mostly used by company? Like I said, compliance management is pretty common across all the different companies which have implemented SAP GTS. Yes, that's the latest version of GTS 10.1. Is it also included NFE? Could you elaborate on NFE? Nota fiscal, I think it's specific to Brazil, right? Yeah, nota fiscal, I haven't worked on directly on any Brazil requirement in GTS, but I don't think it can be taken care in ECC only. You don't need GTS for that. Or I can check back on this. I am not sure on nota fiscal, but I can definitely check. Will you going to cover all required configuration and business processes? Yes, so we will basically see what all that functionality offers, then we will set up a thing in configuration, then we will check the master data, then we will create the documents in ECC. We'll see how those documents are look in GTS. We will go and release those documents in GTS. So we'll go over all those business processes as well as the required configuration. GRC also at GTS, is it similar to that? So GTS is a part of GRC. GRC is much more than GTS. There are different compliance. So it's yes, GTS is a part of GRC. Any other questions, guys? Okay, if we don't have any questions, then we can conclude this session. What will be course tenure? You mean duration of this course? So if we get the total batch, right, complete batch of 5, 6, and then if we can either have on weekends. So usually we take between 16 to 20 hours to complete this course, right? So this we can split this among 4 different weekends, or which I actually prefer, weekends 3 to 4 hour classes, and then finish this course in a 1 month's time or 5 weeks time. Okay guys, if there are no questions, then we'll conclude this session. Thanks for attending, and you guys have a good night, or a good day, sorry. Thank you. Bye bye.